can create something that's really engaging, but most importantly rooted in story, but know how to put it out there. I always say that's like a dangerous duo. I think as soon as I hung up that phone call, it started to weigh on me. I'm like, I actually have no idea what any of these people are doing on my set.
Well, here we are today with one of my personal favorite music video directors. He is an absolute legend. We just actually realized that we haven't seen each other in a few years, but when it comes to social media friends, this is a prime example. It's actually funny. I just noticed this about 24 hours ago, and I haven't even said this to him yet. I just realized the first time we came across each other was the contest for the Justin Caruso lyric video.
No, that was our first time.
That was
really?
it.
What's crazy is I was shuffled my Spotify playlist and that song popped up and I was like, wait a second, I did a whole like music video for this. Yeah, that literally just popped up.
Yeah, so I remember seeing it and I entered it, and I mean my video was by no means good.
Yeah.
But I was scrolling through. I was just looking up. I looked up your name on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it was like one of the first videos that popped up on your YouTube channel because it had like 6,500 views, I think.
Yeah.
But I just saw it and it almost like threw me back. It threw me back so far because I was like, man, I didn't remember at all that's how we came across each other for the first time.
Unlocked like a memory in my. I like kind of forgot about that music video, and it's interesting because I think I shot that like within the first week of my summer break, like going into my junior year of college, so like my sophomore year to my junior year, and that was also during my travel videography phase too. Yeah, you made like a Philippines video. I had like a whole Philippines video. Went on a road trip that summer, like that was like the era of like Sam Colder, Matt Como, all of those guys.
I think that contest was a Rory Kramer thing too.
It was a Rory Kramer thing.
It was in the niche as well.
Yeah.
But let's talk music videos. And one of the things that I know a lot of people talk about with music videos is how it's a weird industry. And I know just because I've walked around with the camera in my hand before, I've had people be like, yo, you shoot music videos? Can you shoot one for me? How do you handle that? And how do you actually legitimize yourself whenever you are getting past that point or just trying to get started?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a really good question. I think the best way I can probably answer that is just talking about how I got started into all music videos and stuff. But like at first, I didn't really know I wanted to get into music videos. A lot of my friends were just artists, and I thought it would be fun to just shoot music videos with them. And as I did that, and as I started posting a lot of content on Instagram and on YouTube, naturally people would just reach out. I'm like, hey, you want to shoot a music video? Yeah. And I was like, sure, why not? Like, this could be a fun thing to do. Started to realize that it was a great way for me to like express my own imagination and express my ideas and stuff like that. But then over time, I think it's natural that like you start to realize that there are certain things that you want to do creatively, and there are certain, how can I put this? You start to mature as an artist, right? And as I started getting to that point, and I'm still constantly maturing, I was able to kind of figure out, okay, like, yeah, this artist has good music, but it's not really in line with what I want to make or what I want to do creatively. So it just naturally becomes just a selection process, I suppose. Yeah.
How often now are people reaching out to you that you don't work with them?
That's a good amount.
Yeah.
I'd say there's like every day there's probably someone in my DMs.
Is it mostly a budget thing, or is it just like you don't align on what they want to do, or?
I think it's mainly like it's just not in line with what I want to do, right? Yeah. Like, and I know that there are other videographers and other people that want to get into the space that could serve them much better than I can, just because there is that intention there, you know what I mean? And it's also like a capacity thing. Like I said, as I'm maturing, I'm taking on like more projects and projects outside of the music video industry as well. So I would be doing them a disservice by spreading myself out even more thin, you know?
Well, what's the percentage wise for your business where you would say music videos versus other stuff?
I'd say like right now it's music videos is probably like still like a good majority. I'd say like 60%.
Okay.
Especially like right now, like this year. Last year was probably more like 85%.
Okay.
But this year I've definitely gotten more into like the commercial type of work, documentaries and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Are you trying to get more into that documentary world? Or are you trying to keep it split? Because something that I felt is it actually makes me a better creative whenever I have that variety. Whenever I am working on a documentary project, a YouTube video, a music video, a little bit of everything. And creatively really gets you going because you're going to do very similar things. Like the overarching things are similar.
Yeah.
But there's the differences, whether it be, you have to stylistically make something happen in a music video, but you're not going to actually like really light a scene a whole lot in a documentary.
Exactly.
So but there's something creatively that feels really nice whenever you get to do everything. And so are you trying to keep that split?
Yeah, so like I wouldn't say split in like some sort of like equal percentage, but I think I definitely am trying to dabble more into different genres and different mediums, just because, like you said, and something that I'm starting to realize too is like, I guess as a creative, as an artist, I didn't want to kind of box myself into just being known as like, oh, the music video guy. I love music videos. I think it's dope. I think it's a great way to kind of express different things creatively, but I can also do that in different genres as well, through documentaries, through commercials. Never in my life did I think I would get into like short films or narrative, but we just shot our first short film last month, and that was a ton of fun. And like you said, like the overarching, I guess, idea is the same. We're still creating something, but it's within the details that make it very, very different. And I'm enjoying it.
Is it a narrative short film or what?
Yeah, it was a narrative short film.
Okay, how long did it come out to be?
Still working on it, but I think it's going to be like 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you wrote it, correct?
Me and a couple of my hometown buddies wrote it. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me, can we talk about the story of it a little bit? I don't know. I'm curious how that even came to be. Is this something you've wanted to do for a while now and you finally like, guys, we got to buckle down and actually make this happen?
So I knew I wanted to do a short film, but I didn't know I was going to be doing it this soon, like within my career. And I did not think I was going to be doing it this year at all.
Yeah.
So it kind of came out to be where one of my best friends, Zach Mazook, we grew up in the same hometown of Yorkville, Illinois, pretty much just surrounded by cornfields, about an hour and a half outside of the city. He had a EP that just dropped, Green Waters, and pretty much the story behind Green Waters is it's like a coming of age type of EP. It talks a lot about like growing up, the growing pains of growing up, life lessons and things like that. And he approached me and was like, hey, like this EP is dropping in less than a month. I'd love to shoot a short film for it. And I'm like, damn, dude, like it's like no time at all.
Yeah.
But we talked about it and we were bouncing ideas back and forth. And he's like, well, I think it would make sense because of the subject matter of the EP, because of like the principles and values that we hold close to ourselves that we are able to relate on because we are friends. Why not just shoot the short film in our hometown of Yorkville, Illinois? Let's get our family, our friends involved, all the people that have helped us throughout our journey. Let's get them involved and let's make something happen.
Yeah.
And like, it was a grind to write a script, to figure out the logistics, to reach out to all the locations, to get the film permits in pretty much 3 weeks, but we made it happen. And like, it was so cool being able to look at the crew and realize, oh, this person was here at this point in my career when I was just starting in high school. Or this person right here, he's been a mentor for me for the last 3 years. Or this person right here, I met 2 weeks ago in LA, actually funny enough, but now he's out here in Chicago. So we had all these beautiful people from a bunch of different walks of life on our set, and even my parents were there.
That's amazing.
It was beautiful, man. It was very,
That's
very beautiful.
amazing. It's like worlds colliding.
Exactly,
too.
that's what it was. Yeah.
That's beautiful because, I mean, it is really nice how you can share that with the people that you love the most as well. But whenever it comes to actually like sitting down and just being like, all right, well, we got 3 weeks to write this thing, film it. How was the process like whenever you actually got to production? Was the script like set in stone, or were there still some things like night before where you're like, hey, we got to figure this thing out?
So I just like kind of zoned in for a second because I was like, yeah, there was definitely a lot of stuff that wasn't really prepared up until the day of the shoot. But yeah, we tried our best to, I think the approach was, hey, like, let's work on the script, because it was myself, Zach Mazouk, his brother Nick Mazouk, and another friend of ours, Cole Ryan, who helped produce the EP for Zach. And because this story meant a lot to all of us, and we did kind of try to relate it to like our hometown of Yorkville in a certain sense, we all kind of wrote it together. And that was really helpful because it took a lot of like stress off of my shoulders.
Right.
So I was involved with that creatively, but at the same time, I was able to split my time in trying to figure out the logistics of the shoot. And every single day, it was kind of like that for like 2.5 weeks straight. A lot of phone calls, a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of meetings.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So let's rewind a little bit and talk the beginning of your freelance career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was the first kind of success that you had? What space was it in, and how did you really get that momentum going? Because you filmed a little bit. You went to college at
Ball State
in
Indiana. Yeah, I was actually a pre-med student.
Were you doing really?
Yeah.
Throughout the entire thing?
My freshman year of college, I was a pre-med student.
Okay, and then you switched.
And I switched over my sophomore year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I thought I told you that.
I feel like I knew that now that you're saying that. But how was that experience? How did that go over with everybody whenever you said it?
Well, I'm very, very grateful that like the friends that I have in my life now are the same friends that have supported me throughout my career.
That's awesome.
And a lot of them have been the ones to push me into pursuing this as a full-time career. One of my good friends that I met in college, Joe Krause, I remember we were at a party together, and I was telling him, hey, I'm a pre-med student. And he's like, wait, what? Because he's seen my YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And this was maybe like 2-3 months into college. And he's like, what do you mean you're a pre-med student? I'm like, well, you know, my parents told me that I should probably do it. It's secure, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, do you want to do it? And I'm like, not really. So we ended up leaving the party together, and he took me to the telecommunications studio at Ball State. It was in the David Letterman building. And I remember he pulled out his key card, he swiped the door, opened up the door, and it revealed like this massive green screen wall, all of these lights, all this equipment. And I was just there like, wow, like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop my major. Now, I didn't do it until the end of the year, but it was that moment where I was like, yeah, I think I want to really double down and pursue this.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Man. Shout out. He said his name was Joe.
Joe. Shout out Joe. Shout out Joe. It was Joe. It was a lot of my hometown friends too. I consulted a lot of people because like my entire freshman year, I was back and forth between, do I want to, you know, fully go into video production, or do I want to maybe try to do both and maybe do pre-med? But
did you consider after you graduated college getting a full-time job anywhere, or was it like, I'm doing my own thing?
I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah, I feel that. Because whenever people ask me what they should do after they graduate, like I dropped out of school, and a lot of my friends just graduated last summer, and I had a couple of friends that were on the fence because I met them through film. That's what we had in common. You know, we really, you know, it was like my buddies who I would go and like shoot street photography with freshman year. You know, it's like, hey, we should go use our camera. Like let's go do something. And it was always just like, let's go shoot downtown.
Right.
But they were on the fence, and I just feel like if you go the route of getting a job, it's going to be a lot harder to actually try and do your own thing after the fact. Because, you know, as you start to make some real money, you're like, well, I need to find the replacement for that income to actually take the leap. So it's just like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it now.
Exactly.
And it's a blessing and a curse, 100%. Always being self-employed, because I don't have the experience that I've worked for a corporate company or something. And there are definitely some days where I'm burnt out and I'm like, man, it would be nice that I could just get some PTO.
Yeah, exactly. Just take a couple of days off. Yeah. No, 100%. I agree. It's like, it's a blessing and a curse. It's a double-edged sword. But, you know, we're here. We're still here. We're pushing through. We're pushing through.
So you finished up school, started right away. You started a media company. Was it just you, or?
And so when I was a sophomore in college, I then pretty much committed to joining the film program at Ball State.
Okay.
And at that time, I was going through the classes and I started to realize like, okay, like everything they're teaching is everything I kind of already know, and I wanted to get more experience, and I wanted to just kind of build my network out a little bit more. So I ended up driving back and forth from like Ball State to Chicago, like every weekend, for almost 2.5 years straight, or the majority of the weekends, I should say. And I was doing that with a good friend of mine, Zach Roy, and we started a couple of production companies, not really knowing what that meant.
Right.
And we kind of grew it and tried to scale it as much as we could while we were in college, while still trying to like drive back and forth from Ball State to here. And by the time we graduated, it's like, okay, cool, let's just do this full time. It came with a lot of challenges, but you know, we're still kind of doing our own thing.
Yeah, it's like you being oblivious to everything actually worked to your advantage in that scenario, because you don't know what you're doing. You really have nothing to lose. You're still in school, so it's like, screw it, let's put a name on this thing and actually try.
Exactly.
And that it's kind of freeing at first, and then you feel legit. You're like, oh man, like
especially when you get the certificate saying that you have your own LLC and everything.
Yeah. That was a great feeling whenever I first got it. I remember I got it and I was like, wow, this is a real thing now.
Yeah.
I better
take it serious.
Yeah. It's like I gotta start figuring. I'm an adult now. I got my own business, but it's really not that big of a deal. But so whenever you were driving back and forth, you were coming back to Chicago, what are some projects you were working on at the time, and how were you actually navigating that, finding the clients? Was it a lot of family and friends? Was it, you DMing people to shoot shows? What did that look like?
Yeah, so starting out, it was a lot of music video work. So it was a lot of DMing artists, a lot of when I was on set with these artists, they would bring their friends, so I'd be able to talk to them, and they would be able to see what I was doing. And they're like, hey, like, can we get a music video? And I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's do it next weekend. I'll drive back up.
Yeah. Were you charging them at the time?
Yeah. It was on and off.
Right.
Because at that point, like, I was just trying to work with whatever budget, right? Like, I remember I drove out to St. Louis. I think that's like a 5-hour drive from Ball State, 5 hours there, 5 hours back. And I think I made like $20 after everything, right? But, in the time that I was in St. Louis, I started going back and forth to St. Louis maybe for like a solid 2 to 3 months, and I built a nice little network out there. But yeah, the outreach process was definitely just a lot of DMs and then word of mouth. But then I don't think it was really until after college where we started to realize, like, oh, we can start reaching out to people in other ways, like email and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it was a lot of meeting people on set, and then that led to one thing, which led to another thing.
Exactly. And that was, like, the great thing of, like, social media, too. Like, I always try to, let people know what projects we're working on, or, like, teasing our sets, like, on stories and stuff like that. And then that gets people interested. And once they see the final product, they're like, oh, cool, like, this turned out pretty good. Maybe I can reach out and maybe we can work on a project. And it's not just for like the artists that we work with, but also for crew members too.
So now you're working on, you have some bigger productions that you've done. I mean, even the one that we worked on a few years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty big production, there's a whole lighting team, and I actually, funny enough, I was there to shoot BTS photos.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I think the first AC didn't show up, so I ended up pulling focus.
Yeah, and you killed it too. You killed it.
I was like, man, I've never pulled focus in my life. I'm a big autofocus guy.
Yeah. But you killed it.
But, I mean, it ended up working out. But how was that going from being mostly a one-man band to starting to build up these teams and build up these productions where you needed to take a step back all the time and trust other people?
That's an amazing question, and this is actually one of my favorite stories. I remember I was a junior in college, and up until that point, I was kind of like a one-man band. I was doing a lot of these run-and-gun music videos, setting up the lights, sourcing the props, doing all that by myself. And there was a production company in Chicago that reached out to me, and their names are No More Heroes, and they're a music video production company. One of the guys that reached out to me was like, hey, like we've seen the work that you've been doing. Would you like to do like this kind of bigger budgeted music video? It's for this artist named Elgato. You'll have your own crew. You'll have a DP, a gaffer, grip, first AC. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. And I thought nothing of it. I thought I was going to be doing the exact same thing I was doing up until that point. And then a couple days before the shoot, I think maybe it was like a Wednesday, we hop on a call and he's like, hey, just want to make sure you got everything you need. Like, you'll have Giorgio, he'll be your first AC, or no, he'll be your second AC. You'll have Gigi, who'll be your first AC, Austin, who'll be your DP. Like, just make sure you have a conversation with them and, get them familiar with your concept.
Right.
I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. And I think as soon as I hung up that phone call, it started to weigh on me. I'm like, I actually have no idea what any of these people are doing on my set.
Yeah.
So the 2 days I had left leading up to the shoot, I just spent all that time looking up what a DP did on set. What did a first AC do? What is a gaffer? Like, what is a grip? Like, what are all these different crew members and how are they supposed to be involved? And by the time I hopped on set, I realized, like, okay, this is going to be a sink or swim moment. Like, I'll just figure it out. I'm just going to be honest with the crew members. I'll be like, hey, this is my first time working with a crew. I don't have like a professional film background because these guys are veterans. Like I mean, they're some of my good friends now. They've done like big commercials, big music videos, films. And I'm just this, 20-year-old college kid just walking on set, not knowing what he's doing. So I was super honest and super transparent with them. And I'll never forget like how kind and how nice they treated me that day, because they really helped me and walked me through the entire process. And I remember leaving set. I mean, the shoot went really, really well, but I left set that night very, very confident. I was like, wow, like, you did it. And since then, I never really looked back. Like, since then, the sets kept getting bigger. The crew members kept getting larger and larger and larger. And that was a really, really big, like, defining moment in my career.
So those people that you met on set there, you said you're still friends with them to this day. Have you worked with them on a lot of the projects, or how did they necessarily mentor you? Because I would assume you said they're vets.
Yeah.
They definitely helped you that day.
Oh yeah, big time.
Because you were the fresh, you were fresh on set. You hadn't done it a whole lot before.
Yeah.
How did they kind of take you under their wing and be like, hey, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is how this runs, versus you actually, you're the director there. You're supposed to be the one that's like telling everybody what to do. But how did they help you navigate that day?
I think on that day, I don't think they explicitly said much, but like if I was kind of like taking it to a certain direction, that they knew that it could be better and like executed more efficiently, they would kind of like nudge me in the right way. I can't remember like specifics, but like I know Austin Venus, he was the DP that day, and I've actually went to Spain with him in October for a project that we were doing out there. I remember he was a huge help in kind of like guiding me, especially with lighting setups and stuff. I think that day I wanted particular setups and I wanted it set up in a certain way, but then he'd be like, hey, maybe we should try moving the light this way, or maybe we can position the light here and use this type of diffusion so it'll get the look that you actually want. But yeah, they were just kind of nudging me along.
Yeah, just little things that they've seen throughout different sets, and throughout different projects. Exactly. That's awesome, though. And I think that's sometimes you could have easily went into that day with like this huge ego and be like, no, this is my set. I tell you what to do. Yeah. But it would have harmed everything, Absolutely. Wouldn't have made any relationships.
Yeah.
The video probably wouldn't have turned out that great because, whenever you're an asshole on set, they aren't going to want to work as hard. Exactly. And it's just, it's a snowball effect.
Yeah.
So this is total pivot, but you were recently in Ghana for a project?
Yeah, I was in January.
How was that?
That was crazy. Like, that was my first time in Africa. Traveled internationally with, I think, maybe 5 to 6 Pelican cases. I didn't even have a visa when I left the U.S., and you're supposed to. And I was really just trusting, like, the artist team to have all that situated by the time I landed. I think I left January 2nd, so I was kind of stressed out, like, because of the holiday. So it was so much just to get there. But once we were finally there, once I got to kind of unpack all the equipment, which when I did land, I unpacked the equipment, put everything together, and went straight to shooting. Just did not stop, and I don't think I had any sleep. But, man, that was such an amazing experience, and definitely set a good tone for this year, for sure, in terms of, like, work and also, like, man, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Those kind of opportunities, whenever they come up, it's just like, wait, you want me to come to Africa to shoot this?
Yeah.
Was the artist from Africa?
So the
Or what
artist was
the
born
situation?
here in Chicago, I think, but he moved to Ghana when he was 2 or 3, and then he was raised by his grandmother and his grandparents and his uncles and aunts and cousins and stuff like that up until he was 7 or 8, then came back here to Chicago. So it was really cool too, because when we were out there, like we went out to the village that he grew up in.
That's awesome.
He introduced me to like his family, and I got to see that perspective and that culture. And like, we were talking about in the beginning, I originally, maybe we were talking about on camera or off camera, I originally wanted to get into travel videography, right? And this particular project was a documentary for an artist, but it's like it was blending those two things together. I get to travel to a completely different continent, but also work, within music. So it was really, really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool whenever you get to go to unique places because you're good at using a camera. Like there are some rooms that I've been in, some people that I've met that there's no chance that it would happen unless I was good at using a camera.
Yeah.
And I think I'm with you there where I came up on those travel filmmakers and I don't know if I necessarily want to make like travel films, but whenever you can go and more so tell a story somewhere, it's really, really cool. Like, it's just like mind blowing whenever things like that come up.
Yeah.
And especially it's cool whenever you are, you're putting this work out constantly where, yes, it's paid work, but you might not be that fulfilled by it. There's definitely long periods where I'll be like, man, I'm just not enjoying what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Work's good. I'm grateful that work's good, but you're just like, the projects just haven't been there. And then something like that comes up, and the way that they found you might have been off a project that you were just like totally ready to be done with, or was an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
And it's a really weird feeling where it's like, all right, I guess it's all worth it.
I literally, I was just telling my friend this, like, a good majority of the week can sometimes for me be spent like, man, like, this particular project I'm working on, like, isn't the best, or it's not really in line with like what I really want to be doing, or like the stress of just being a freelancer and finding your own work is like really weighing on me. But then one day out of the week, some crazy opportunity can pop up, some crazy shoot can pop up, some crazy news about a project you did months ago can lead you to other work. And then for me, it's like, this is why it's worth it.
Yeah.
Like there's always something that keeps you going, for sure.
Yeah, those texts are hilarious.
Yeah.
I was sitting with my mom recently whenever I was home, and I got a text, and I don't know if I'll keep this in or not, but the text literally said, do you want to...
No! Wait.
And I said to my mom, I was like, Mom, this is my job in a nutshell.
Yes, exactly.
Like, these are the crazy things that they've become normal, but they shouldn't have become normal because like it's still insane.
Yeah.
But it's just like, what?
Yeah.
Like it's just as weird to me as it is to anybody else. But it's like, there's these mind blowing things where it's like, man, I guess that's what I love about it though, is the uncertainty of it and the fact that today is different than tomorrow. I love the travel of it, but then sometimes the travel gets old and I get tired of it. And it's just, being a freelancer, the uncertainty of it is what I love and what I hate. It's awesome, but then sometimes it wears on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving forward, you've had some growth. You've been in LA a little bit. You've been in Chicago a little bit. Do you have a goal of like, do you want to build a team out? Do you want to make a legit like production company? What is the goal for you, and what exactly are you working towards right now? What's that vision?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of split between like, I can segment it into like two types of goals, like business goals and creative goals, but they're all kind of married and under the same umbrella, right? So right now, I'm kind of operating this production agency, Round 3, and we do everything from like music videos, documentaries, commercial work, stuff like that. With strategy in mind, right? So helping clients come up with like campaigns or content rollout plans, even things like paid media and media buying strategies, right? Because I am really in love with like that aspect. I always say if you can create something that's really engaging, but most importantly, rooted in story, right? But know how to kind of put it out there, and you can help serve your client better. I always say that's like a dangerous duo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to continue to scale and grow like the production agency. I would love to, we have a phenomenal network of like, production team members like here in Chicago and in LA. But I would love for it to get to a point where I can have some people on the internal team to help me scale it, to, who knows, to much further where it's at now, I guess.
What are the parts of just business and work that you struggle with the most? Is it that business end? Is it the creative end that you're like, you get burnt out of, and there's one specific thing that you're like, man, if I could just hire this out, I would be so much happier? Yeah.
I think the one thing right now, like the season of life I'm in, that I'm struggling with within business is outreach. Right. I think, we're in a very competitive landscape, right? And I think it's awesome that everyone's creating like really, really cool content, but you really need to learn how to outreach to other clients, to build up your roster, to have outreach systems, whether that be email or through DMs and stuff like that. And I think, having someone on the internal team help with that would take a lot off my shoulders.
Do you have a strategy for it right now, or are you pretty much just taking what comes in organically?
I would say the majority right now, it's like organic, and it's through a lot of word of mouth, which has been great. But I do have an email campaign that goes out for specifically like commercial clients.
Yeah. That's something that I definitely struggle with because it sucks.
It's terrible. Because we're
nobody
creatives.
wants to do it. I don't want to sit down and set up an email campaign.
Yeah.
Like people do want to do that.
I was going to say there are people
but I don't want to do that.
There are people that are so talented at it, and that's what they live and breathe, and that's cool because that's not what I want to do.
It's like I want to make videos, and that's pretty much it.
That's it. Yeah.
But that's definitely something that I couldn't agree more with. And a feeling that I have sometimes is how many cool opportunities and how much money am I leaving on the table just from sitting here. In total transparency, a lot of the stuff that I'm getting right now is just from people reaching out.
Yeah.
Not much outreach. I'm lucky enough that I've made great relationships with people who steadily will hire me over and over again. And it's a great feeling. But then I'm like, one of my best clients this year so far was somebody that I met for the first time last year at Lollapalooza just because I got connected with them. And that was my first time meeting them. And now some of the coolest opportunities I'm getting this year because of that. Who am I missing out on meeting right now because I'm too lazy to reach out to people and find that new client?
Yeah.
Yes, I might be comfortable on the amount of money that I'm making right now, but how much am I missing out on, and how much am I honestly stunting my own growth by just not cracking down for even 30 minutes a day and just saying, I got to do this. I don't want to do it, but I got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely a struggle that I have where, but it's a weird feeling because at the very beginning, it's like we just want to be successful. We just want to make money with our cameras. At the very lowest level, whenever we started out, I want to make enough money to live a comfortable life.
Yeah.
All for my camera.
Right.
And then it gets to a point where it's like, all right, I'm doing that. So now what do I want to do?
Yeah.
And then you pivot again. And then you pivot again. Do you think that as you move up, you want to always hold that director role and then also help manage the people at the production company? Or do you want to maybe even hand over somebody like the CEO role of the production company so that you can be strictly a creative?
That's another great question. I don't know. I think honestly where I'm at, like I would love to really just be focused on like the creative, like being a creative director or a director for the projects that come in, and obviously having like potentially a roster of directors within the team that can also take on other projects, and maybe handing off like a lot of the business and the operation side of things to another individual, obviously someone that I trust,
right.
But also having a say in like just the overall direction of the company and stuff like that, because it's tough because my brain is very like, I'm super creative, but I also love the business. And I've always been a big believer in you can do both, but that has stunted me in some cases for
Yeah,
sure.
there are ups and downs to it, and I think a lot of times people will hold themselves back just because they're, like you just said it, somebody you trust, it would have to be. Finding that person is very tough.
You're right.
Because you're handing a lot over to them, especially if it's a position where they'll be running operations of your business.
Yeah.
We're talking you're handing over all the financials. You're trusting them to be on calls with people who you might have built this relationship with over the past 5 years. And now you're not on a call with this person. God forbid the person you hired has a bad day, and then it's a scary thing.
Absolutely.
But it's cool to see people that like we knew of each other whenever our work was not nearly as good as it is now. We haven't done nearly as much, and it's cool to see people in that ecosystem actually doing well.
And it's funny you say that, because I was just having a conversation with he is now kind of like a mentor to me. He's one of the first guys I met out in LA. His name is Mike Barrow, and he was telling me that in the beginning of his career, because he was a VP of marketing at a couple of different like music labels and stuff like that. In the beginning of his career, like he kind of knew of everyone, like different people in the creative scene, different people at like different levels of like the music industry at different labels and stuff like that. But he's like pretty well into his career now. He still knows those same people, and they've all kind of grown together, right? Even though they haven't been in contact, like you said, like they're all kind of within the same ecosystem, and they can bond over the fact that like they knew each other when they just started out. And I think it's a really cool thing.
It's refreshing too,
very refreshing,
because it's like we all sucked at one point. We all have been through these little things where it's like you didn't know what to do, or you work on a project and you mess it up, and then you realize everybody's done that. And it's just really cool to see, even if you're not really close with these people, there's people like yourself that I've followed throughout the years. Follow your stuff, you follow my stuff. And it's almost like, I heard somebody say one time, I think it was actually, it was on a comedy podcast, but it's almost like being a fan of somebody. It's like whenever somebody else wins, it's like you win a little bit too. You're rooting for this person, like, oh, that's my guy. And you get a little pumped up about it. And it's cool to see that in work for the first time, where, totally disconnected from one another, but it's still like, oh, dang, like I remember he said he wanted to do that. It's really cool.
That accountability is it gives you a ton of motivation too. It's like there are a lot of days where obviously it's normal within this industry, and I think in every industry, like the amount of self-doubt that can come with, being a creative and stuff like that. But then when you see people that and people within your circle and people that like you look up to winning and doing really cool projects, at least for me, that gives me a ton of motivation. It's like